beet tartare with some potato chips, seasoned very classically as a French tartare with the cornichons, shallots, olive oil, and some pickled mustard seeds. Enjoy. Hi, all. My name is Dalton. I'm a private chef in Durango, Colorado. And today we're going to make some beet tartare, just a nice alternative to using beef. They have kind of an irony quality. They obviously mimic the color of beef. Also, they tend to stick with savory flavors really, really well. So it is an easy way to transition from beef into something else. We're going to stick pretty classic. So obviously trying to keep this one vegan. We've got about a cup of diced beets, probably 4 ounces or so if you're going for weight. This is just going to kind of determine your serving size. There's not going to be ratios as if you're baking something, or tartare for me is a little bit freeform. As a rule of thumb for tartare, you want to have something acidic, something with fat, and then some kind of allium. I generally stay away from garlic because it's very pungent, but chives, shallots, onions, pickled onions, even leek could work really well. I'm going to use my fat, which is going to be olive oil. Makes a nice kind of first addition to the bowl. That way we have something to start kind of coating and keeping everything together. I'm going to add some pickled mustard seeds. I like these because they add a little bit of acid. They also add just a really nice pop. So a little bit of these pickled mustard seeds also give you some nice, obviously mustardy flavor. Very traditional here is going to be some cornichons. So just those nice little diced pickles. These add another layer of acid, also a nice little crunch, differential in texture. Shallot is very traditional. Something important here is just make sure that everything's diced really, really fine. So this is a fine brunoise, which will just keep you from hitting big pockets of shallot and kind of getting blown away by that flavor. This is probably a half a teaspoon of shallot, probably a teaspoon of the cornichons, and then another half teaspoon of the pickled mustard seeds. The mustard seeds and the shallot are pretty pungent, so you want to kind of dial those things back. This here, just some nice chive, keeping it traditional. You can go heavy on the chive. So we'll go for about a teaspoon of chive. One of my favorite things to use to add salt and acid to anything is capers. I just beat these up a little bit. We use about a half a teaspoon of these as well. We have our fat, we have our alliums, and we have some pickles, although the pickles aren't very acidic. So the next thing I'll do is add a little bit more acid. Kind of see our distribution. I like to do this before I do the final seasoning, just to kind of make sure it looks to me like I have the right amounts of everything. And we're keeping this pretty delicate, so that looks really nice. Last thing is a lime here. You can do a little bit of lime zest and lime juice. I'm going to do a little zest. I like that extra little punch of citrus flavor, especially with the beets. I like the flavor of lime with beets a lot. Just a little bit there, just to kind of freshen things up. So then we're also going to use a little bit of lime juice here. We'll start with about a quarter of a lime. I like to just kind of adjust as I go. This is where it really comes down to preference. You're going to want more or less acidity depending on kind of what you're into. And then that olive oil and lime is essentially making like a little vinaigrette. It's dressing this all together. I've got some smoked Maldon sea salt here. Again, smoke is a flavor that just does really awesome with beets. If you want to go the extra mile, you can actually put these beets on a smoker, cook them that way, and then proceed as normal. So that's kind of what you're looking for. You can see a nice little distribution of all the stuff. The beets are going to start dyeing everything and making the shallots more pink. It's going to start to make the color of those mustard seeds sort of an off pink as well. And that's just beets. They're going to get everywhere. So all that's left to do is to plate this. We have this very lovely pink plate, and we're going to see what it looks like on there. We like to keep it a little bit of contrast, so you'll get that dark color of the beets with that lighter plate underneath. So I've got some ring molds here. You can use any kind of molds you like. It's just nice to keep things kind of tight. Unless you're going to completely cover the top of the tartare with something, which I've done in the past at a restaurant that I worked at. We made essentially the fancy version of picnics, those little tiny potato straws. We would just kind of plop the tartare down on the plate and then bury it in those potato straws. But for visual aesthetic sake, we'll use something to keep it in a nice shape. Just stack everything up nice and high there in the center. Oh, little collapse there. That'll happen with the beets. Fall here on the beets. That's going to be more likely to happen than with the beef because they just don't stick together as well. And having that little bit larger dice makes everything a little bit more loose. Last thing you're going to need for any tartare is a nice crispy element. This can be toasted bread. This can be crackers. This can be chips. This can be those potato straws. It can be taro that's been fried, sweet potato, potato. Literally any starchy medium that you can make crispy is perfect for a tartare. We're going to go with some local chips because what's not good on chips, right? So these I'll generally just kind of place on the plate. Some people like to do a halo. I like to keep open space on basically every plate that I make. So I'll generally stack these kind of on one half of the plate. Just on here. Make the plate a little asymmetrical, and that always adds some visual appeal, even when it's something as simple as just putting potato chips on a plate. And there we are. This is our beet tartare for all of our vegan and vegetarian friends out there with some potato chips, seasoned very classically as a French tartare with the cornichons, shallots, olive oil, and some pickled mustard seeds. Enjoy. That's a camera? Yeah. Oh my God, I thought that was a stand. I do a beef tartare course, and there's almost always a vegetarian. And so I do beef and beet. Last time I did this, I had the beef eaters come back and they're like, "You got any more of those beets?" Those are really good. I love the beef tartare, but those beets are really good. I'm so tired of beets and goat cheese, and they're delicious. The beets are really interesting because there's so much water in them. As you start to chew, the water comes out of the beets, and then it kind of opens everything else up. I like the pink plate.